$430,000. $10,000. The first number is the net worth of the typical American homeowner. The second belongs to the typical renter. Same country, same economy. 43 times apart. So the answer is obvious. Buying wins. Case closed. Except for one problem. Almost every honest spreadsheet ever built on this question says renting should win. The math says one thing. The country says the opposite. And both of them are telling the truth.
One of these numbers is lying to you. By the end of this video, you will know which one, and you will know the variable that actually decides it, because it is not interest rates and it is not your city. It is something nobody puts in the spreadsheet.
Meet Maya and Sam, 30 years old, same city, same $85,000 salary, and the same $90,000 saved, every spare dollar from 8 years of working. They live on the same street, and here is what makes this a perfect experiment. There are two identical houses on that street. Same builder, same floor plan, same square footage. One is for sale, $400,000. The other is for rent, $1,900 a month. Maya buys $80,000 down, 20%, plus about $10,000 in closing costs. Her $90,000 is gone, and in its place, a 30-year mortgage at 6.8%. Monthly payment, with taxes and insurance, about $2,600. And everyone in her life agrees this was the right call. Her parents are proud. Her loan officer called it building wealth instead of throwing money away. Every payment, she is told, is a payment to herself. Sam rents the identical house across the street for $1,900, and he keeps his $90,000 invested. His plan is simple: live in the same house as Maya, pay less every month, and invest the difference. His parents are less proud. At dinner, someone asks when he is finally going to stop wasting money on rent. Sam says he is actually ahead financially. Nobody believes him. There is nothing to point at. Maya has keys and a deed. Sam has a brokerage login. 3 years in, the scoreboard looks brutal. Maya's house has appreciated to about $450,000. Her equity, the down payment, plus 3 years of payments, plus the appreciation, sits around $140,000. Sam's portfolio? About $120,000. And unlike Sam's number, Maya's number has a roof on it. She lives inside her investment. Equity, stability, a real asset you can touch. Remember that 43 times statistic? This is how it starts. Buying wins. Everyone knows buying wins. That is what the equity statement says. Here is what it costs to get it. In 2019, a portfolio manager named Ben Felix published the most influential video ever made on this question. His insight was simple and it was devastating. Comparing a mortgage payment to rent is a broken comparison. A mortgage payment is part interest, part principal, part cost, part savings. Rent is pure cost. To compare honestly, you have to isolate the money that disappears on each side, and only that money, the unrecoverable costs. For a renter, that is easy. It is the rent, all of it. For an owner, it is 3 things: property taxes, maintenance, and the cost of capital, the interest you pay on the loan, plus the returns your down payment stopped earning the day it turned into a house. Felix added it up and got 5%. 5% of the home's value every year is what ownership quietly destroys. His famous rule? If you can rent the same home for less than 5% of its price divided by 12, renting wins. It is brilliant. And in 2026, it is wrong. Because that 5% was built when mortgages cost 3%. Maya's mortgage costs 6.8%. Run Felix's own logic at today's rates, and the 5% rule becomes something closer to a 7% rule. On Maya's $400,000 house, that is roughly $28,000 a year that simply evaporates. Call it $2,400 a month before a single dollar of equity gets built. Sam's unrecoverable cost is $1,900. Full stop. Let's watch where Maya's money actually goes in year 1. Her payment is $2,600. Interest takes about $1,800 of it. Property tax, another $370. Insurance, $150. That is $2,320 gone every month before the house itself starts collecting. The amount actually building equity? About $270. In year 1, Maya's payment to herself is 10% of the check. The other 90% went to the bank, the county, and the insurance company. And the house collects too. Maintenance runs 1 to 1.5% of the home's value per year. A water heater here, a roof there, another $4,000 to $6,000 every year, on average, forever. So run the whole thing forward. 30 years. Maya's house, appreciating at 4% a year, is worth about $1.3 million. And it is paid off. That is real wealth. Nobody can take it from her. But Sam, Spreadsheet Sam, kept his $90,000 invested at 10%, and every month he invested the gap between his rent and Maya's total cost of ownership. Every month, for decades. His portfolio crosses 1.6 million, 1.7, depending on the year you stop counting, 1.8. Under honest assumptions, and every assumption is on the screen right now, Sam finishes ahead. Not by a little, by hundreds of thousands of dollars. So renting wins. The math is clean. The spreadsheet does not lie. Then explain this. $430,000, $10,000. The typical owner, the typical renter. 43 times apart. In the real world, the world where the spreadsheet just told us it should be the other way around. At year 30, the math says Sam. The country says Maya. Somebody is lying. Nobody is lying. The spreadsheet and the survey are both telling the truth about two different species of human being. Spreadsheet Sam invests the difference every single month, 360 months in a row. He never skips one for a vacation. He never raids the account for a wedding or a car or a rough year. When the market drops 37%, he does not sell. He keeps buying. For 30 years, he treats an optional transfer like a legal obligation. Now, meet actual renters. In the real data, only about 39% of renter households spend less than they earn at all. Most are not investing the difference. For most, there is no difference. It gets absorbed by lifestyle, by emergencies, by life. Maya never had that option. Her savings plan had a lien on it. Miss the payment, lose the house. So the payment always happened, through the years she was motivated and the years she was not. For 30 years, the bank forced her to do the things Sam had to choose to do, alone, 360 times. And here is the detail that gives the whole game away. In the wealth data, home equity is only about half of what homeowners are worth. Owners do not just hold houses, they hold more of everything. More savings, more investments, less debt. Because the discipline that ownership forces tends to spread. The mortgage was never a great investment. It is a mediocre investment attached to an elite behavioral device. And that is the variable nobody models. Not the rate, not the city. Compliance. Whether the plan actually gets executed by the human being running it. So let's be honest in both directions. That is the whole point of this channel. Buying genuinely loses when you move within 5 to 7 years. The transaction costs alone, buying and selling round trip, can run 10% of the home's value, and they can erase years of equity in a single signature. Buying loses in cities where prices have sprinted so far ahead of rents that the unrecoverable gap becomes enormous. And buying can lose catastrophically when people stretch into more house than the math allows because the culture told them any house is always the right house. Renting genuinely wins when the gap is big and you are honestly, provably, the person who automates the difference into investments and never touches it. If your contributions already happen by payroll deduction before you see the money, if you have held through a real crash before without selling, then you are the species the spreadsheet was written about. Rent proudly. The math is on your side.
But if you are not that person, if the difference would quietly vanish, the way it vanishes for most people, then the boring truth is this. A mortgage might be the only 30-year savings plan you will ever actually complete. Which one are you? Be careful with that question. Everyone answers it the same way, and the data says most of them are wrong.
Maya was forced to save. Sam had to choose to. The house was never the asset. The habit was.
If this conclusion feels familiar, it is because it is the same one we found when Jake bought a rental property and John bought an index fund. The asset keeps changing. The variable never does. And if you are now wondering about the order, should the emergency fund come before the down payment, the retirement account before the brokerage, the house before any of it? That sequence is the next video. Because doing the right things in the wrong order quietly costs 6 figures, and almost everyone is doing it in the wrong order. Subscribe so it shows up when it is ready. There is nothing else like this on YouTube right now, and that is because nobody else is willing to do the math.